Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Porch Light Letters podcast number 2226, When Walls Fall. This is episode 4 for our volume 19, and volume 19 this week is, sorry, I don't know why I can't remember this. Living Wide Open. So Living Wide Open is our theme of the week. Tonight's series is When Walls Fall. Sometimes the walls we build to protect ourselves become the very barriers that keep us from living fully. When those walls fall, slowly, gently, or all at once, we create space for connection, healing, and belonging. Tonight we explore the courage it takes to let our guard down and trust life to meet us where we are. Yes, we are practicing that right now. I was chatting backwards and forwards with my sister-in-law today. It's her birthday, and was talking about how at the moment my mind and my body are in complete conflict with each other. One says, I'm tired, take a rest. The other one's like, I am full of energy, let's go. And then they switch. And the body then says, I am tired, I don't want to do anything. And the mind is sort of like, come on, we've got to get going. Let's get going. Come on, We're very much in conflict right now. And I believe that some of the walls that have been around, that I've had around me, are falling, and this is why I'm getting a lot of this conflict going on. So what it teaches us is that walls can keep pain out, but they also block love, joy, and possibility. Absolutely true. Totally agree with that. Allowing vulnerability fosters deeper relationships and personal growth. When walls come down, we invite authenticity and connection. True freedom begins when we allow ourselves to be fully seen. And this has been part of my journey for the last 18 and a half weeks, up to week 19, because we're in week 19. Everything that we've been talking about, I am going through and experiencing, and I'm finding this to be a very therapeutic time for me. And so it helps me with facing my walls, with facing things that I need to face, with helping me to become who I need to become for the next phase of my life. And it's also helping remove barriers as well. We had a big barrier removed yesterday, and I took a large step in the direction of where I need to be going, and it did not faze me. That was interesting because I didn't get fazed by that step at all. That part of the wall had come down. I was able to step through it, and I was not fazed by it. I wasn't sort of like, oh my God, I can't believe I've done that. And I wasn't like heating up, getting all nervous about doing it. It was just sort of like, oh, that one looks good. Let's go do that. And going and doing it. And it just felt right. There are times when I have gone to take a step forward in things where I have been like, oh, I don't know about this. So I've been like going backwards and forwards in my brain. Should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? Well, if I go and do this instead, then I got to put that off for a while. And if I don't do this, then this could happen. And I start coming up with all this different crap, basically, inside my head on why I shouldn't do something that I should be doing. And then last night it was very natural. Let me go and have a look at this. Oh, that's perfect. Yes, let's do this, this, and this. Perfect. Done. And I felt really good about it. And this morning I woke up and I thought, oh, I completed that step. That Post-it has finally come off the wall. I should rescue it out of the bin and put it into my planner with the date on it that it came off the wall. Because there's all sorts of Post-its up there, and this one finally came off the wall. I have made that commitment now. And then last night I sent an email to further that commitment. I've got the paperwork today. It's all getting signed. It's getting signed. Haven't had a chance to sign it today. It's been a little on the busy side, so I'll be signing that tonight and submitting it all. And then that's another a big Post-it note that can come off the wall. This is all stuff that will literally take about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the websites that I have to visit for the stuff. But I put down 30 minutes, and the first one I took off last night, I had 30 minutes on there, and I was going backwards and forwards with comparisons, but I only took 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, it was done. The other one that I had to do today, there's a lot of emails that have gone backwards and forwards about this one, and I got sent the documents today and I've got everything filled out. I just need to sign and scan the documents and email them all back. And they'll be doing that as soon as this is done. So it's that part of the wall has disintegrated, and I have stepped through it, and it's okay. It's all good on the other side. And in my notes here, it says, what happens when you stop hiding behind stories of who you should be? You become even greater than what you thought you could be. You move forward, and within moving forward, taking that step forward, it's okay. And you're sort of like, this is pretty cool. This feels pretty cool on me. I like how this feels. You allow yourself to receive help, love, and understanding from others. Absolutely receive that, no problem at all. You discover strength and openness rather than protection. Absolutely. You begin experiencing life with more depth, compassion, and ease. And today has been very much like that inside myself with what I've needed to do and everything else. How we carry forward, we reflect on which walls are serving me or serving you and which ones are holding you back. The one that was holding me back from taking those 2 Post-its off my wall, that wall's disintegrated. It's just quietly melted away because I took that step forward, put my hand on the wall and said, enough. And I always think about, what movie was that in? There was a movie where they had a ring on and they'd put it there and it'd be a vibration and it would break the glass or whatever. My hand went on that wall and the vibration went through it and the wall just disintegrated. Isn't that the coolest thing? It's really cool. I feel so much lighter today. I mean, I felt a heck of a lot lighter when I got all my hair chopped off on Saturday. And it's just continued because I think getting my hair chopped off was part of the wall coming down because it's kind of released me to get on and get things done. I can't explain it. Maybe my hair was a barrier for me. It was a wall. It was up there. It was for protection. I didn't need that protection anymore. Put my hand on the wall. The ring vibrated. The wall disintegrated. I have now stepped through that wall that was holding me back. Yeah, are there still other walls up holding me back in different areas? Absolutely. What will I do with those? When the timing is right, I will walk up, put my hand on the wall and put the vibration through it, and it will just disintegrate. Practice letting people in slowly at your own pace. Choose safe spaces where you can share your heart openly. Honor both your body boundaries, and your bravery. With legacy, when we allow our walls to fall, we model courage and authenticity for future generations, showing them that openness creates deeper connection and belonging. And I will tell you this, I hadn't thought of the walls as being a barrier or being brave enough to having that courage to step up to the wall and put my hand on the wall and have the vibrations go through and it just collapse. I had not thought of that as being courageous. It was sort of like, I need to take this step. Let's do it. Boom, it's gone. Now let's step through and do the next process that needs to be done. That's what it took. It's like one of the times when I was driving in the RV, I was out driving Sparkles, and this is before I got Zephy, and it was October of 2019, and I had arrived at the KOA in Tucson, which was right next to the Lazy Days. I remember I pulled in, it was a pull through lot. I pulled in, there was this big concrete patio area. There was this place where you could pull a car up. It had a lemon tree there. It had a little outdoor, it had an outdoor table and chairs, which was really cool to sit on. And the whole thing was undercover because they had solar panels along the roof line to allow, as part of the electricity that they used in the park. And so I pulled in there and was close enough, had made it so I was close enough to the patio where when my steps came down, I didn't have to go across an area. The bottom step was over the edge of the patio, which was perfectly fine. I think it was the next day I went and got a rental car so I could end up driving around all the area and stuff. And I was busy hooking up my utilities. And this woman came, and I was on the driver's side of the RV at the back there with the door open, and I'm busy pulling out my power cord had been pulled out. I just hooked that up. Now it's hooking up the water and the sewer. And she stops and she looks at me and she goes, "Did you just arrive?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, looks at the RV, and it's a 32-foot Class A. She looks at it and she goes, "And did you drive this by yourself?" I went, "Yes." And she goes, "Well, you're very brave." And I'm sitting there going, somebody had to drive it. And I'm just like, "Well, thank you." And inside I'm sort of like, why would she think I'm brave? To her, somebody driving an RV by themselves, especially a female, to her, that was bravery to be able to step out and do that. And I was like, isn't it interesting how we see things differently? I saw it was the only way I'm going to be able to get from point A to point B, if I wanted to spend a life living on the road, was to get behind the wheel and drive. Did I look at smaller RVs? Yes. I looked at the Class Cs, which are the ones that have the cab, the area that comes over top of the cab, and you sit a little lower. It's almost like driving a van around at times. It's bigger than the van. But when I was looking at them and looking at what I needed, because one of my requirements was the bed had to stay as a bed even when traveling. I had to have access to the bed. So if I pulled into a rest area and I wanted to have a quick nap or whatever, I had the ability to go and lay on the bed and do that. And I also had to make sure that everything in the kitchen was available so I could stop and make my own lunch. And most of the time it was, like making sandwiches on the road. So I needed access to the freezer where I kept my bread. I needed access to the refrigerator where all my cold meats and salads and stuff were. I needed access to where all my plates were kept and everything else. I needed access to my table so I could sit at my table and have my lunch. And Zeffie, when she joined me, she would sit on the opposite side of the table and just sit there and look pretty. She liked the Buckeye trips, the Buc-ee's trips though, because we'd pull into the area, would fill up with gas, and then I would go and park the RV, and I would park it so that like the front window was in the shade, was facing away from the sun, even if it wasn't in the shade. And because she would go and lay up on the dashboard and just watch for me. And I would always make my trips in there very quick. And but the first time I went to a Buc-ee's, I'd always heard that you've got to check out the restrooms. And I'm sort of like, why do you want to check out? I went in the restrooms and I was sort of like, bang, for a service station, these are like the cleanest restrooms ever. The stalls were huge, and they had a door that went all the way down to the floor. It had a lock when you turned it, said vacant or non-vacant or occupied. So it was very easy to figure out which ones were which. It was very, very clean. And they had a lot of hand basins there as well, and everything was working perfectly. And then you'd come out, and if you go right, there was all the drink station. If you went left, there was all the snacks and other bits and pieces. And then if you went past the drink section, you went into the food area. And so I ended up purchasing the fudge came. Oh, the fudge came later. That wasn't that day. So the first time I was in there, I'd been told to get what are they called? Like Buc-ee's nuts or something. It was these corn. I didn't like those. But my friend who was a huge Buc-ee's fan said, you've got to try these. They're really awesome, blah, blah, blah. So I found a pack and purchased them. I didn't like them. And I also went over to their food area, and they had a ham, egg, and cheese sandwich. And they also had a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And I thought, I'll get to it. And they were pretty big size. They were good size. And so I got one of each, and it was pretty cheap for gas station, for a service station. It was very cheap on the food side of things. And so I went out to the RV and sat in the RV, and I put one in the refrigerator for later and one in front of me. And Zeffie gets up and she jumps up on the other side of the dinette and just sits there and looks at me. And so I took the wrapper, because I put it on a plate. I took the wrapper and it was wrapped in foil, but it was wrapped in paper and then wrapped in foil. So I took the paper and put a little bit of the scrambled eggs on there and pushed it across to her so she had her plate. And I got these cute little photos of her sitting there very delicately eating the egg, and the paper barely moved. She was a very delicate eater. And I always thought about that. I was actually thinking about that today for some reason, about how when I gave her a treat, these were treats that she loved, and and like I always had to tell Gus to be gentle. I just held it out for Zeffie with my fingers, and she would very gently just take it out of my fingers. It's only a couple of times that she had nipped me over the 2,080 days I had her, where she actually nipped me because she was a little over enthusiastic. And I said, hey, gentle. And I only had to remind her those 2 times. And then she was very gentle again after, even if she was eager to get her treats. And then those times I would make her lay down on her mat and wait for her treats. Like I had to count them out. She got 3 treats, and I put them down. Front, says, wait. And she learned this very quickly. Wait. And I put the 3 treats on the floor. And then I would say, I would cradle her head, and so she was forced to look up at me instead of at the treats, and I'd go, good girl, now you can eat them. And I'd release her head, and they were gone. Flash, gone. But even then, she still picked them up very delicately. So how the heck I got onto Zeffie and RVs? Oh yeah, that's right. People were turning around saying I was brave to be driving this thing. And it struck me really weird, because I thought, wonder if they say the same to the female truckers who are out there, because a lot of times when we pulled into rest areas, we would often have trucks on either side of us or pulling up on either side of us, and the number of women that were driving was incredible. And I was sort of like, good on you. You know, it's good breaking down another barrier. And why shouldn't they be driving? And I never thought of it as a barrier, but it wasn't until that woman turned around to me and said, you're very brave about the fact that I drove an RV by myself. And I'm like, really? I guess in some people's eyes, it may be something that they would never do. That is their wall that they would never push down and cross. But they had seen other people who had pushed beyond their own personal wall. So she had her wall of, that is something I will never do in front of her. And yet she had met somebody who was on the other side of her wall of, yes, I will do that. And so I guess to her, that was a brave thing to do. So anyway, no idea how I got onto that. But anyway, so, you know, just remember that there's times that things will feel very natural for you to do. Other people will perceive them like, here is my wall with my line. I will not cross this barrier, will not cross this wall. This wall's going to stay here because I'm never going to do that. And then they see other people doing this thing they're never going to do. And they're sort of like, oh, they are so brave. It's an interesting concept. Anyway, where are we up to? We're up to reflection questions. So I've got 4 for you. As usual, we've got 4 for you. Where have you noticed walls you've built to protect yourself? Number 2, how might letting some of those walls fall change your relationships? And we're talking relationships with yourself, relationships with your family, relationships with your friends, relationships with others that you network with, connections that you make, that sort of thing. How would it change those? Number 3, what helps you feel safe enough to open your heart? That's going to be an interesting one. And number 4, where in your life are you ready to invite more connections and belonging? And our closing thought for this evening, when walls fall, hearts open. And that is where living wide open truly begins. And with that, we are out of here. Catch you guys back here tomorrow evening.